All right, so I'm here with Jim Murray with the Special Olympics. How you doing today, Jim?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Isn't this a fantastic place?
Uh,
Look at
I'm
that.
already tired. I've only been here one day.
How you keep your legs going and all this. It's like a circus on wheels, and it's still in these buildings.
have you done the whole show yet?
No, I've only been here 4 hours.
Okay, so you haven't done the whole show.
What I spent on the road
You,
this morning.
you've got 2 more days of show, so you will make it around. But let's talk about the Special Olympics. How long have you been involved with Special Olympics?
I was first introduced to Special Olympics in a parking lot behind on let's see, St. Clair and Young in 1986. I was with the Canadian Olympic Committee, and just down the street from us at 40 St. Clair was the head office for Special Olympics Ontario and Special Olympics Canada at that time in the Foster building. And Harry Red Foster was one of the philanthropists and who helped fund and get started with Dr. Frank Hayden, the Special Olympic movement in Canada. But Dr. Hayden had already established it in the United States in many ways, but it was a little slow getting off in Canada, but Red Foster got behind it. Now, so along I come, this a few years later, and I meet a fellow by the name of Mike Travers, who's from Burlington, and a great guy and great fundraiser. And he worked for Maclean's magazine and later on for the Globe. But at his height, at the time he was very effective as a fundraiser for Special Olympics was while he was with Maclean's. And they teamed up with TSN. TSN used to do the special broadcast of the Special Olympic annual meeting. And this annual meeting turned into a big dinner and an auction. So I meet Mike and in the parking lot, and he tells me about Special Olympics, and I'm with the Olympic crowd, and I'm thinking, well, do you have an auction? Yeah, we have an auction. I said, well, isn't that great? So I said, well, we're on our way to Seoul for the 1988 Games, Olympic Summer Games. When I come back, let's connect. And we always have stuff left over. I said, we store it out at AMJ Campbell Van Lines out on Meyer side at that time. And let's see what we can do. I said, I can pull some stuff off and I'll bring it to the office. Well, he tells me, and I did that. From 88 on, we got back from Seoul. I continued to do that while I was, for I guess about 8 or 9, 10 games, winter and summer, and Pan American. And he tells me later at a little note that we helped raise over $200,000 in the sale of Olympic clothing items that were left over from the games that I kind of squeezed over to Mike and they put up on the auction. So that's how I got introduced to Special Olympics from a fundraising point of view. From an organizing, sorry, I'm trying to think in English here. From a organizing games perspective, I got involved as a general manager in 2001. I was asked by Glenn McDonnell if I would give back some of my skills. I was director of operations and logistics for the Canadian Olympic team. That's about the highest you can be on a staff level in operations and logistics at the Olympic and Pan American Games level. So he said, we know you from fundraising, and we know you now that you're retired from the Canadian Olympic Committee. You might have some time to give back some of those skills. So I got the job. I signed a contract for stipend, as we call it, and I organized the Special Olympics Ontario Winter Games. I was general manager for 2 years out of Barrie. That was their headquarters, Barrie Police Services, and we had our office there. So following that, things moved along and finished those. Had just quiet conversations by email. And I'm at the games in Vancouver. We're working, and we're doing the transfer at that point between the Olympic Games and the and getting ready for the Paralympic Games up in Whistler, and I get this phone call from Glenn. He doesn't know I'm pushing cargo from one loading dock to the next one to load up to go up to Whistler. And he says, Jim, we'd like to talk to you. We have this little Ontario Games Floor Hockey Championships up in Sudbury. And I said, oh, well, Sudbury? I live in Barrie. I said, Glenn, do you know what the winter drives are like going up to I said, it's a little bit of snow and a lot of bit of cars sitting on the side of the highway. Oh, I said, by the way, do you know where I am right now? He said, well, you're in Barrie. I said, no, but how about when I get back in March, we talk about this. So that's when we got back out of, when the Paralympic Games were completed in Whistler. Then we went back to Port Moody, where the Petro-Canada buildings were in storage, and we loaded, did the inventory, and then came back home. So I took on the job for about 2 years of going back and forth to Sudbury for monthly meetings until the Floor Hockey Championships were held. Then from there, I moved from Barrie to Uptown Waterloo, as it's affectionately referred to, as I understand. I don't know where downtown Waterloo is, but uptown I am told. And then he contacted me there, and there was one little treat in between. Asked me to help out with at that time was called Ontario Four Corners Provincial High School Championships. So I got involved with the provincial, little old for that young group, but it was fun. Then he mentioned about the convoy in Paris, Ontario, not too far from Uptown Waterloo, and I thought, well, so then I met what we call the Tammy connection. Yeah, and I wasn't long before I became a sort of a fan of Truck Convoy Paris, and part of the fan club and the volunteers who are so amazing. I've never met more dedicated volunteers in my life, not even at the Olympic level. These are amazingly dedicated, passionate, and most of them are from the trucking industry that volunteer their time and give back to Special Olympics. And it's been a great treat to be part of this, and I've been with it now. It's my 3rd year, and I'm meeting great people like yourself. Maxine and Mike and all the great people that are here today. It's been a privilege, and I'm also working on the Dr. Frank Hayden collection. I do that as well, and
before we get to that, let me ask you So you've been here 3 years with the convoy in Paris, but you've been working with the Special Olympics since back in the 80s. It sounds like, right? So what's your job today with the Special Olympic convoy?
I'm the Special Olympic sort of ambassador, if you will. I try to create a channel between the convoy and Special Olympics to help the convoy understand all the services, all the backup that's provided by Special Olympics, so that there's someone at the meetings who can speak to the issues, help out where possible. And in other areas, I can give back through my Olympic, organizational skills and contacts and dealing with sponsors and areas that are not part of the template of just being kind of attend the meetings and attend the convoy, be part of the convoy on the 2 days that we work together. As I say, beyond that, to contribute in other ways. That has been a privilege. Honestly, it's been a privilege.
So what did you think of the trucking industry? Because it doesn't sound like you've got a trucking background. So what did you think of the trucking industry being involved? Were you surprised to see as many people step up that they do? Or?
Oh, well, first of all, I must admit, I know approximately 20 salutations in probably 25 languages for being with the Olympics. I know Newfie pretty good, but I don't know Truckee very good. And Truckee takes some time. So if you just give me a little time, I'm on my 3rd year. I've got 18-wheeler down now. I've got exhaust from here and there. I've got spark from there. And I've got When, what do they call these on the side of the truck? I got that figured out. Now I got to just be able to sit through a meeting and get through all the acronyms of TSO, PMTC. I'm getting there, buddy. You know, they work with me. I'm going to make it.
Well, we appreciate you trying because it is hard to get through, and we promise we won't make you change a tire or anything like that. What's your what?
I should add that I do envy. I do think the world of the volunteers. Again, as I mentioned before, these are passionate, dedicated people who give their time to Special Olympics, and from that I gain this positive impression of trucking. I see a side of trucking I have so much respect for. I go home and those people are so great. They're so committed to trucking and the contribution trucking makes to the convoy. It makes the Special Olympics. I mean, 25,000 kids in this province get the benefit of the money that's raised by the trucking industry and the convoys. I think we're up to 500,000 right now that just truck convoy Paris has contributed. I mean, that's awesome amount of money that the trucking industry. So I mean, what is wrong? I mean, what can you say about?
No. Well, that's what we're trying to show the public. In the industry, we know all the good that the drivers do and people in the industry do, but a lot of people outside of the industry don't see that. So I'm happy that you're able to see that. So tell us, so now you've seen a lot of people go through there. What's one of the things that keeps people coming back to this, to help with this cause? What's one of the passion points for you?
I think there are two areas. One, the drivers. The drivers are so enthusiastic. They are really the point group in my view anyway. The drivers are really passionate about it. They fall in love with the athletes. And this is where the other factor is. The athletes love being in the trucks, love meeting the truck drivers. They form friendships for life almost. You know, drivers come back year after year. The athletes may move, but they may move way out of this area. They come from Sudbury, they come Windsor. They don't want to miss. They want to be there when it's they call the wheels up kind of thing. The flag person waves the flag and the truckers leave and they go out on their route. And last year we had the founder of Special Olympics. The founder was up in one of the Schneider truck with a veteran. Great guys, great people. Scott was the driver, and great people. And if you ever get a chance to interview Scott, he's a great guy from Schneider's trucking. So those two components with the drivers and the athletes. I mean, that's a mixture. It's just so contagious, and you watch them getting ready to go out around 10 o'clock on September 15th. You got a camera. You got you want to be there at the Paris fairgrounds and watch this to happen. It is so amazing.
Well,
when they come back. Oh no, I'm not finished. Well, when they come back, that's another point. Oh my Lord, that is so great. They're almost like traumatized. It is so great. They've had the trip, and now they're back in the Paris fairgrounds, and they want to tell everyone they meet, all the athletes, what kind of experience they had. Am I getting excited?
You know what? I hope everybody that comes out to the convoy has the same passion level when they work there as you do, right? So that's amazing. Now, you were starting to tell us something about Robert Foster. Is the name? Is that the name right? Red Foster. Yeah. Foster. So you were starting to tell us something about what was going on with the Waterloo. So tell us that real quick.
Yeah. Well, Red Foster or Harry Red Foster was the head of the Foster advertising way back in the 70s and probably before that. And so he got involved with Special Olympics, but it started at the Beverly School and for special learning. And that's where it started. And so Dr. Hayden did his preliminary work there before he went to University of Illinois. So it's sort of like a convergence point. Yeah. And so when Harry saw, the changes in people with intellectual disabilities through being part of the Beverly School program, doing exercise. Because we've got to picture this now. In those days, People wanted people with intellect. The other would look at people with intellectual disabilities as being like a little different, and that was a bad time. Well, just think of it now. Here comes Dr. Hayden and say, no, we want them to do some exercise. Well, most parents didn't want them to do exercise because it would upset them, they thought. Well, he introduced exercise. He introduced Harry Red Foster to this, what's happening here. It could become national. We could have them doing sports. What sports? Isn't it enough they're doing exercise? They're doing tippy-toe and running around? No, Dr. Hayden would say. No, we can have them doing sports. Centennial Games. We can include 2 or 3 sports for special people with intellectual disabilities. Well, so now we get the games in Chicago. He's pushing it. He's with Special Olympics International. At this point, he's with the Kennedy Foundation, and Dr. Hayden is. And so he reaches out, and Chicago wants to do a games there at Soldier Field. All right, let's do it. And he talked to Harry. Harry put the money together, and they sent down a floor hockey team. And we have actually got 2 floor hockey teams. One from the Chicago team, that's where the games are going to be in Chicago. So Pierre Palat played for Chicago. He was the coach. And George Armstrong, Toronto Maple Leafs, is the coach for the team from Beverly School. So now we've got a national, like it's only 7, the group is, I think it was 5 states and 6 states and Canada. So the first games were not really more than just it was some people refer to it as an international games, but it was really Canada with floor hockey team. But anyway, it started there. And then the next year, we had our first games in 1969. We became part of the Special Olympic movement, Canada, and that's where Harry Red Foster gave us space in the Foster Building on St. Clair Avenue. So that's the story.
Great. Well, that's a great one. And listen, thank you for your passion and your expertise and all the stuff that you offer to the convoy. And we look forward to seeing everybody on September 15th this year, right?
Well, yeah,
so
the 15th, 14th,
15th.
It's all in there. We have brochures. If you go to our website.
Yeah. What's the website?
Hey, www.truckconvoy.ca, I believe it is.
If he didn't know that, we were in trouble. So thanks, everybody.